All right. All right, we'll call this meeting to order. And first item is standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. This should be interesting. All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. Let's do a roll call. Members, Todd Blaitler. David Sells.
Here.
Andre Lewis.
Here.
And Scott Burford, I am here too. All right, so we have a quorum. And do we have any members of the public here joining us this morning? Didn't see any.
Michael, did we get any comments sent in from the public?
I'm checking right now. No public comment.
Great.
Okay. All right. Not altogether surprising. Okay. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes from January 14th?
Yes.
Seems like about 5 years ago when January 14th was here. Anybody have any questions or comments about those minutes? All right then. Can I have a motion to approve those minutes from January 14th?
I motion that the minutes be approved for January 14th.
All right. Thank you, Andre. Who seconded that?
Todd.
Todd did. All right. Thank you very much. We are approved. All right then. Roxanne, would you like to take it, or Tim, either one of you, for our next section?
Sure. I'll talk on them. Pardon me, I'm just kind of scrolling back and down between pages within our packet. But so this is the list of our bond projects. The ones on the bottom are the most current updates. And so since January 14th, things that we've completed, the Matthew Turner fire alarm project got completed, and the Joe Henderson fire alarm project got completed. And then the middle school modernization phase 1, we have just like 2 punch list items that we're working through, but that's pretty much complete. We're happy that we're working towards future phases. And actually it was really great because the phase 1 scope that was included in the contractor's work, the painting was just, like 4 buildings, but we've worked with maintenance and they've agreed to take on using the same color scheme and kind of motif that was set up from the bond work in phase 1 to paint the rest of the campus. So that is moving forward right now. And when you drive by there, you can see, some of that old green color getting painted the new, and it looks really good. So we're really appreciative that they helped to take that on. Other things that have gotten done since January, I guess the PAB lighting was already done then. We did go to bid for the Liberty High School and the district office fire alarm. So that is the final site of all of our Venetian Unified School District properties that didn't have the fire alarm updates yet. So that is well underway in construction right now. And it was a difficult decision to decide whether or not to take it to bid, because it was like May when we took it to bid, and it was June when it was awarded. And it was, we had to write language into the contract that said, if COVID increases, your time schedules can be put on hold and you may have to stop work, and we're not going to let you charge us extra to do that. We had a good pool of bidders. We got 3 bids. There was a pretty wide range. I think the amount that we awarded was like I'm going to say 520,000. I'm speaking from memory. But and the highest bid was like 800,000. So, and the second bid was only like 20,000 higher than the low bid. But the contractor it was awarded to is the same contractor that has done Joe Henderson, Mary Farmer, Matthew Turner, and Robert Semple. And we've had a really good relationship with that contractor. So we're happy that, to continue work with them. So knock on wood, I'm pleased that we kind of went out there, even though it was a bit unknown, and got it going, and it's in progress. So the fire alarms were one of the highest priorities for safety and our priority 1 bond work. So that'll wrap it up across all the sites. And then we have the Liberty High School. We had some money set aside for improvements there, and one of the projects is for window replacement. Their windows are really old and they don't stay open properly, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So we have that under contract, and that work will be done before. Right now, school closures are through October 15th, so we anticipate that the work for that will be done before everyone returns to school. The other stuff that's in planning, we have the Mary Farmer Modernization. So over the summer, you have to get a soils report done on the sites, and they drill these holes that are like 20, 30 feet deep, and it does the stratosphere of the soil so that the structural engineer uses it for design for the buildings. So we got that completed. We have the architect was on site and did field measurements for doing baseline drawings for the overall campus design elements. And then what else did we do? There's a couple of things. Oh, we're hiring a traffic engineer, and because they're going to do a study, because we're looking to convert traffic to just one way. So in the mornings and at drop off and at the end of the day at pickup time, traffic will just go one way up from Military West and then exit onto Drillette. So we want to do a traffic modeling study and just make sure that that doesn't bring up any concerns. But so there's things that are moving on in the planning of that. When we meet with the board, we'll bring this information to the board in the first of September 3rd board meeting, and share out some of that stuff with them as well. And then the middle school in seismic upgrades, we've been working through plans and DSA, and that also is submitted for hardship project for Prop 51 monies. So once we're anticipating DSA approval in November, and once we get that approval, we anticipate still receiving Prop 51. So speaking of Prop 51, the Liberty High School fire alarm we also submitted and were approved. We haven't gotten the monies yet, but I think it's about $250,000 that we'll get for matching monies from Prop 51. With all of the state deficits and everything, we've been really grateful that the state isn't pulling that money. It's money that was allocated and funded. So they haven't necessarily funded additional project work, but at least the stuff that they've committed to, they are not pulling. So we're still expecting in 2021 that we will get additional monies to help us go farther with our projects. Can you guys see these photos of the classroom here?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah.
So I have just some photos I thought I'd share out of projects. So this is the middle school. This is our new classrooms. We've got new furniture. Since this photo was taken, we have blinds on the windows. And this kind of just shows you our new cabinetry. So this will kind of be the standard through all of the classrooms at the middle school as we move on. They're not all going to get new furniture because we don't have enough money. But as we work through things like with cabinetry and stuff, this will kind of be the standard for where we're going. And the flooring is similar to what we used in the team room buildings at the stadium for the flooring, and it's been really successful. Over here along the wall, these are computer docking stations and this bench seat cabinetry. So the top flips up and opens, and you can set the computers down in there, so you don't have to have the roll carts that go from room to room. So it cleans up some floor space, and also is just a good design element that I think is pretty cool. These are photos of the front. Got our bollards in and planters. We're working on signage. That'll go, we're still deciding if it goes here or if it's going to go here. That'll say Venetia Middle School. One other option is over here in front of Building B. And then we'll get a sign that says office as well. I'm not sure it shows in these photos, but over here we have a new marquee as well. This is just showing the front of the campus again. This is inside that new wall. And one of the other things that we finished recently was the tennis courts we finished last summer, but some of those finishing details were getting windscreens up. So this is at the middle school. They have similar ones at the high school that are installed. And this is just another view from there down. I'll come back to this at the end, but it didn't come through quite right. This is our certificate of appreciation for Scott and all of his work. Just wanted to pay some homage to that.
Thank you. Those pictures look great, Roxanne. I'm sure we can all remember what the front of the middle school looked like, and wow, blown away.
Thank you.
Standing.
Any questions
Right.
on any of that?
Not for me.
No.
No. Look, everything looks wonderful. It's glad to see projects moving despite what we're going through right now.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, should we, Tim, are you going to dig us into the big numbers?
You betcha.
All right.
And I'm prepared to share screen, or actually that's perfect, Roxanne.
Okay.
We'll start with our summary page. Here we see this each time we meet, and kind of they're up at the top on the middle to the left-hand side. We have our revenues that we collect, and in that very first column of numbers, we're just reminded that we started this off with our local Measure S bond of $49,600,000. So over the years, that first section towards the top, that's all of our prior years. We've earned interest income of over $1.3 million. We've had a couple small other income grants that have come in to help us along the way to provide us total revenues for projects of $50,955,000. In the prior years, that far right column up at the top under expenses, that shows us in prior years, we have spent right around half of those available funds of $25,649,000. So I think Roxanne mentioned a little bit earlier, we are applying to the state for separate state facility matching funds. So these funds right here are our local Venetia Measure S funds, plus the interest and some small grants. So we were able to get $1.5 million so far from the state. And that was for our emergency type work for the Venetia High School fire alarm. So those are state funds, and that's currently in our separate state fund that they require us to track that separately. So we just want to kind of share out to you that, our district's been able to get some state matching funds in addition to do more good facility work here in Venetia. So in that next section, underneath the prior years, we have our current year for 2019-20, and the last we were able to do our Q1 and Q2, and then when coronavirus happened, we passed on our Q3 meeting, and we're kind of playing catch up here in August to show you Q3 and Q4. Plus, we are also able to, we've also been able to close out our books for the year. So we have those 3 line items for you today that we'll be taking a look at detail in just a second. So in that quarter ended March 31st, we see to the far right column that we spent $1,003,000. And in the Q4, we spent $1,237,000. And then basically the last line there, the 2019-20 closing, we also spent the $715,000. And that's basically the work that was completed in June, but we weren't invoiced by June 30th. So those are the invoices that kind of trickled in July and August, but those are expenses that relate to the 2019-20 school year. So with that, maybe we'll look at that detail that shows you. So that's almost about $3 million. So we'll kind of scroll down to the detail sheet and we'll jump back to that in a second. So here we are, basically the expenditures that we're asking you to just kind of review, and we'll take action on that at the end of this item, is in yellow. And this first one, I don't know, Roxanne, if you can scroll a little bit to the left to show the school site. There you go. And maybe just a little bit back to the other way. If that's...
What?
Are you? I just wanted, there's the school site is off to the left a little bit. I can't see that on my screen.
Can you see it now, Tim? I'm sorry, it's all shown on my screen.
That you can just, yeah, it needs to move to the right a little bit. There's the, okay, let's try that. I think the pennies are just cut off on the far end there, but so we had district-wide HVAC work going on. We had a separate energy funding source outside of the bond that provided us new thermometers. And as we went around applying the new thermometers, we found that a lot of our units were in disrepair and some needed some major replacement. So over the last few quarters, we've worked with Matrix, the vendor, to repair and replace some HVAC units throughout the district, so that it works well with our new thermostats that were funded through that separate energy funds from the state. So you can see there $2,920 plus the $73,996. And then $134,000 in the closing that was in June. All of these other zeros in the yellow, these are just projects that we've done in the prior years and prior quarters, and the zeros just mean we didn't have any activity in them. Many of them are closed out. Down there on the bottom of page 2 at Mary Farmer, we continue to work with our architect SVA, and they continue to put together the plans as we, are still in the planning stages of what that campus modernization project will look like at Mary Farmer. So we have the $37, the $4,900, and the $9,800 there to the SVA architect. And scrolling down to page 3, it looks like we also at Mary Farmer School had Matrix, which is our HVAC company. But this one was related to the fire alarm. There were some dampers or some other related type equipment that needed to tie into the fire alarm system there. So we paid them $12,462 to coordinate that work with the new fire alarm system. And in the middle there, we have Robert Simple. We had some, this is under our HVAC projects there. There was a big project there at Robert Simple Library. Was pretty warm, so had a major replacement there. Plus we had to close out some old fees with the Department of General Services at the state, $1,500 and we also worked with Matrix and TARP Electric to do HVAC work in room 16, $10,740 to Matrix and $2,706 to TARP. And then as we scroll down to page 4, that top section there at the Robert Simple multi-purpose room. Been doing some good work in there. And this last one, we contracted with Musson Theatrical to upgrade the lights, which was a very old system and had very old on and off switches. So we were happy to work with Musson, 21,502 to get that current electrical code, and TARP Electrical assisted with that electrical work for lighting, 8,527. In that next section, we had a lot of the fire alarm work at Joe Henderson School. That was the major, these last few quarters were the major construction time. We had the main contractor, Vanden Boss Electric was the main contractor. So we made big payments to wrap up that project at Joe Henderson School, 121,631 in Q3 and 232,784 in Q4. ACEE Electrical, that is our kind of our fire alarm designer, and he also checks to make things are being done up to code. So we paid them $24.90 plus the $92.85, and then pretty much wrapped that up with $10,055. DFE and Associates are the official state inspector to make sure that everything's being done to state code. So we paid them the $22.80 plus the $83.60. A little bit of DSA fees there. If you scroll back up a little bit, Roxanne. Yeah, that's $602 to California Department of General Services. And then TARP Electrical, as well as providing some electrical work related to the Henderson fire alarm, $13,750 plus the $2,636. At Turner, Matthew Turner Elementary School, again, also wrapping up our fire alarm project at that school. Vanden Boss was the main contractor. And so kind of wrapping up main contractor payments with Vanden Boss, $194,000 in Q3, had a credit in Q4 of $78.52. That's just a timing thing. And then wrapped up some of the big payments with Vanden Boss, $81,787. Again, same fire alarm designer, ACEE Electrical. Paid him the $269 plus the $11,098 and plus the $97,775. TARP Electrical provided some electrical oversight and work, $2,125. DFE is our inspector of record, $87.40 and plus the $3,800. And then RGM Kramer kind of helped us with some construction management, $380. Okay. It says 19 pages, but a lot of them will have zeros. So Venetian Middle School campus modernization. So that's very visible there on Southampton Road. So we're doing a lot of wrap-up stuff there at Venetian Middle School. And we had some signage, 186 to Bonet. We paid some DSA fees, $500 to the state. Did some utility testing with CalTest, $225. Needed some technology and electrical work by CDWG 2656. Again, our inspector of record, all of these local bond projects, we're just reminded we're required to have an official inspector of record on file. So they have a pretty set fee structure. So DFE, we paid him $30,000 in Q2, $11,780 in Q4. And then through the closing process, June work was $7,980. Geocon, some additional soil engineering work, $8,995 plus $816 plus $1,565. Go Green came back and did some roofing repairs, $962. Our architect for the project is HY Architects. Continuing just to kind of monitor the project through construction, paid them $95.17 plus $23.07, and did some in-plant testing related to, I believe this was for our portables that were built in plant and required testing by materials testing, $1,019. So we'll scroll down to this next page and still talking about the Venetian Middle School campus modernization up there at the top. Again, had some pretty major HVAC work. Maybe think this was in the rooms that they were working on, and through that thermostat project, identified some pretty major pieces of HVAC that were significantly past their useful life. So Matrix helped us do some major replacement at the middle school, $124,823 plus $292,826, and some wrap-up work in June of $2,732. North American provided some construction services, $8,100. Roxanne, do you remember exactly what that was related to?
It's another implant inspector. So like the trellis that's up front at the entry is a prefab structure. And so the testing of those are done additional before they come on site. So that's what that was for. And similar to the modulars, how they have implant testing.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And needed to connect phones and communications into our 3 new portables through Packet Fusion, $499. Again, probably some technology and electrical equipment work per TOLA related to those new portables, and some.
I think it's the projection screens.
Projection screens for the new
The
classrooms.
new rooms, yeah.
Okay. RGM assisted us with some project management, $406. We furnished the 3 new classrooms with desks and chairs and teacher stations through Sierra School Equipment. That was $36,332. Swank is our main contractor for that project, and as they were wrapping up that phase of work, we paid them the $205,320, $334,997, and the $127,552. TARP Electrical was on board mainly for HVAC work, but some of the other electrical work needed with the wrap up of the construction, $4,756 plus $2,705.
The other thing that they assisted with in that money is that we have lighting upgrades. So the parking lot, the teacher's parking lot, and the front of the school, those lights out there, there's been concern for quite a while about how dark it is. And a lot of the lights were old, they're not LEDs, but also they just need replaced, they're not working. So it wasn't included in the contractor's work in Swank's main general contract, but we hired TARP to go and replace them. And so we're really pleased that the lighting all the way across the front of the school should really be such of a big improvement, and it should really help with safety as well when people get to return for evening activities.
Yeah, that's a great point, Roxanne. That was pretty dark in the parking lots. And then we also contracted with Vanden Boss for electrical work, and I believe this has to do with the kind of the lower back lot. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, the 11,000 and the 24,800?
Sure. So I actually have some photos, but they are not really all that enamoring. But at the lower P wing, well, it's multiple between the tennis courts and the closest bathroom wing adjacent to them. There was an electrical pole that served that first wing of the P wing, and it was leaning sideways, and we had overhead wires that were, it looked awful, and honestly at some point it would become critical. So they took that and took it all underground. And then also if you're standing there looking towards the P ring from the bottom of the slope from the upper campus, on your left hand side, that second wing, I don't know the numbers of the classrooms offhand, but there were additional wing of modulars that's closest to the baseball fields also had overhead wiring, and it was just an eyesore. And no matter what we do with that wing, it's eventually going to have to be handled. And so they took all of that overhead stuff and put it underground, and it is really a big difference. It looks so much better, and safety and everything else. So we were pleased to get that done.
Thanks, Roxanne. Sure. And in the next section, we've set up a separate project code for the Venetian Middle School Seismic Retrofit. And this is a project That's required because the state changed some of the construction guidelines for the buildings that we constructed back in the 70s. So there's probably some reinforcements we're going to need. They're safe, but to the extent you start to modernize those buildings, they're going to require some additional seismic work. So we've contracted with the same architect that's doing the modernization project, HY Architects. So they're helping us with all the specifics related to any seismic retrofitting we have to do. And so our payments to them were $4,182 plus $103,665. And it also related to that with the seismic work is taking a look at the soils on campus. So Geocon is our soil engineer. We paid them $27,303. Towards the bottom, also at Venetian Middle School there, kind of wrapping up the tennis court project. We contracted with American Asphalt and had them come back and do some finish work for $7,200. We used a court specialist to help make sure everything was appropriately, $1,800, and then with Team Fitz provided the finishing touches with windscreens and some other things for $7,012. Almost there. A few more things. We'll scroll down to that Benicia High School section there on HVAC. Again, identified some a large unit at the food service center. That's the main hub kitchen for all of our district. And I think there was one other room with matrix for major HVAC replacement, $84,291 plus the $1,647. And we can scroll down to page 7. There's a little bit right there at the top related to our Benicia High School stadium. So one more item, we had Southern Bleachers come back and finish some additional work on our bleachers at the stadium for $10,695. And we'll scroll down to that bottom section where it starts to talk about the Benicia High School tennis courts, again, finishing up. We did all of our tennis courts at Benicia High School and Benicia Middle School. So this section's about Benicia High School, and we used the site consulting specialists to pretty much manage that project, $3,150 plus the $1,500. This at Benicia High School, it also involved replacing fencing with Calco fence, $24,300. There were some rotting poles and some fencing that was old and rusty. So we replaced that with Calco fence. And that next section on the top page, RGM Kramer also assisted us with the construction management of that, $1,084. Plus Team Fitz came back with finishing touches with windscreens, $15,004. This next section in the middle, fire alarm work at Liberty High School and the district office. Liberty High School and the district share one building. So this is the last fire alarm project for our district. And we're starting work with the same main contractor and the same electrical designer. So it's nice to have consistency throughout all of our schools. And ACEE Electrical is the designer and kind of helps us monitor the project throughout. $2,400 plus $3,523 plus $10,190. Vanden Bosch, the main contractor for the fire alarm work, got the first payment of $210,960 plus our inspector of record DFE at $3,040. And RGM Kramer was helping us with bid packets and the original construction management, $3,870 plus $3,639. This next section is just kind of general supplies, and we have just general bond supplies with Miss Egan, $442 plus $288 plus $240. And we will scroll down to the next section there for Blueprint Express for copy costs, $81 plus $115 plus $891. Sonoma County Office of Ed, they have a legal department there. We check in with them from contracts from time to time. Paid them $783 plus $663. Miscellaneous postage to Roxanne, $50 plus $39 plus $97. And down at the bottom, we are working with Site Consulting Specialist, and they're helping us with some projects throughout the district, 3,500. Do you have a little more insight on that one, Roxanne?
Yeah. So in writing our Prop 51 applications, Matthew Turner has additional eligibility. There right now, all of the state Prop 51 monies they're allocated, but in future years, when they allocate more, it's based on first come, first serve for the applications. And so Matthew Turner, even though there's not money available right now, they have eligibility for future funding. And so we needed to put together a bid package. Well, not really a bid package, but a project scope to say if more money became available, here's a project that we'd like to do. So we had site consultants. One of the things they do is evaluations for roofs. And so we had them go look at the roofing at Matthew Turner, because some of the buildings, like, they're not completely failing right now, but within 5 years, they'll be reaching 5 to 10 years, the end of their expected livelihood. And so we had site consultants go do a report and an analysis, and we use that to incorporate in our baseline to submit for grant application to the state for future funding should it become available.
Thanks, Roxanne. So yeah, it enables us to keep tapping into any state available funds as we can. That next section, we have our bond cell phone through Verizon, $173 for those 2 quarters. And the last section is our audit fees. Our bond program is required to get audited through James Marta CPA. So we paid them $500 plus the $2,300. And we have our payroll costs for our bond director, $43,285 plus the $43,285 for the 4th quarter. And that is our detailed list of expenses for quarter 3, quarter 4, and those items that were wrapped up in the closing. I think if we can scroll, I don't know why it says 19 pages. Is there? Oh, I see. This is kind of extended to the right. So now all of the pages repeat themselves, and this kind of gives you cumulative amounts. And so maybe we can just go through these pages real quick. So up at the top, can you guys see to the far right the remaining commitments?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
basically this attempts to capture kind of what we have left to do. We're over halfway spent in our bond funds, and we have some big projects left and a couple small projects. So we'll just quickly go through these pages, and we did a big safety study throughout the district. So we have about $1.1 million left to identify and implement related to fencing and other types of safety measures. 1 point of entry through the main office, those kind of things throughout our whole district. We'll just kind of skip down all the zeros to where there's a number. And the next, one of our next big projects we've just started is the Mary Farmer Elementary School Campus Modernization Project. So we've spent a little bit so far, but we have about $8.2 million left to spend there. And this next section is we have a bathroom portable and a childcare room at Joe Henderson School. So those are a couple portables. We have about $300,000 set aside for that work. At Matthew Turner fire alarm, we have about $31,000 left in this fiscal year to wrap that up. And this next big one is Venetian Middle School Campus Modernization for a next phase or two, $6,997,000. The Benicia Middle School retrofit project right now, we've just set aside this $40,000 amount. Obviously, that's not enough to do all of the seismic retrofit work, and so we are also in the process of getting state matching funds to help us with that project. It's still under the design phase, so we're working on the funding source for that. Just some miscellaneous Benicia High School fire alarm, a couple $1,000, and we are moving forward with a new marquee for Benicia High School, about $62,000 there. Their marquee has not been working 100%, and just felt that it was important to have a way to communicate with people through their marquee. And also at Benicia High School, at some point we're going to need to redo the gym floor, which is starting to buckle, $400,000. And at the Performing Arts Building, we have $300,000 to follow up with some additional projects there. Yeah, we did a big lighting project, and now we have about $300,000 to do some sound work and maybe some other things. Unfortunately, I believe we tried 3 times to get $1 million or $2 million from the state related to our Career Tech Ed drama and dance program, but we didn't quite make the last cut.
Yeah, and then the most recent one, usually they make a decision in like May to June of each year, and because of COVID this year, so this is the 3rd time we've applied, and we kind of figured if we don't get it this time, there's probably no reason to keep trying. But they did change the requirements a little bit, and with COVID, they delayed their decisions till this fall, so they haven't made the final announcement. So we're still keeping our fingers crossed for one last try, but it doesn't seem hopeful, but it was worth trying.
Yeah, and then these last few here at Liberty High School, yet to be determined an alternative education program, $233,000. There's a total of 300, but a couple lines down, you can see that we identified the window project at Liberty High School for $66,000. So that was one of those alternative ed programs for facilities. We've got about $400,000 towards the fire alarm to wrap that up over the next month or so here, or at the Liberty High School district office facility. Just general bond supplies, $15,000 as we scroll down. Future commitments towards additional project management costs, $15,000. Dues and memberships, $15,000. Reproductive costs, $5,000. These numbers, they'll go up and down as the years go on. And what we don't do is we don't, in our commitments, we don't record future interest income. Obviously, those additional funds in the future will allow us to provide more on these smaller line items for postage and construction management and phone service, as well as I believe the next page is just our project management with that last number. But that last number is all the way back up at the top, Roxanne, and just kind of wrap up with that summary page. And so here on this summary page, we just talked through all that detail for the last 2 quarters in the closing. And you can see right there in the middle, we have, let's see here. Those are the total expenditures to date of $32,875,000. So, and that first little box in the middle, the summary of bond projects, that just summarizes that we've spent over half of our bond funds to date, $32.9 million. We are committed for the remaining funds of about $18.5 million. And in that kind of larger box toward the bottom of the page, that details out the 18.5 million, which we just flipped through those last few pages. And if you kind of scan our remaining committed projects, you can pick out the big ones, which is doing as much as we can at Venetian Middle School to modernize the campus, and also taking a big step forward at modernizing the Farmer Elementary School. Obviously some security upgrades and a bunch of other smaller projects, but really what our remaining bond funds will allow us to do is, take the middle school to the next step, modernizing it, and taking that first big step at modernizing Mary Farmer Elementary. That seemed a lot longer this time, didn't it?
You didn't make it seem that long, though, Tim. Thank you. There was a lot more, though, just since we haven't been together in a while. Well, thank you. Members, do you have any questions on any of the numbers that Tim and Roxanne presented?
No, I'm good.
No? All righty. Well, could I have a motion then to receive and file that bond expenditure list?
I'll move
Motion to receive and file that expenditure list is presented.
All right. So it sounded like David and Todd tied for
Bring in.
I'll second.
a motion, and David, you're going to second that? Okay.
Good.
Thank you very much. All right. All right. Well, hey, now we get to the fun part, the comments section. Committee members, you have anything?
Are there any kids? Is there? Mine aren't local anymore. Is there any attendance on campus now going forward this fall?
We're able to provide preschool and some childcare programs on our campus following the current guidelines. So it's smaller groups of kids with, I believe we started out with like 10 kids on July 1st and 2 adults. I think we may have adjusted that a little bit since the start. So we have those programs at our 4 elementary schools right now, and they seem to be operating well. It's not at its full capacity like it has been in the prior years before COVID-19. So that is one of the programs with students that school districts are allowed to offer, and we were able to do that with our childcare services. And what's kind of nice about that is we did start on July 1st, and we opened, and that entitled us to keep our separate state funding for childcare operations. So even though we might not serve the same number of kids as last year, we're able to maintain those funds. So it would never have impacted these bond funds, but on our general fund side, it was a big help for us to be able to do that.
We got a lot of good conditions, empty space.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, they're holding those programs in the big multi-purpose rooms, so the space is there's definitely more than 6 feet space between the student desks.
Yeah. That'll be maybe a good testing to see how it works once you get more students back to campus, right?
You got it.
Hopefully this part goes well. All right. Any other comments?
I was trying to get to the thank you certificate. I just want to say how much that we've appreciated you being on the committee and your time and leadership and being the chair. And really, to all of you committee members, it's a thank you. But with Scott leaving, just wanted to really accentuate and point out his help and work. And so I think it's really awesome. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Roxanne. I was shocked. I went back and reviewed some of the older information from these bond meetings, and I was shocked to discover I'm the only remaining original member from that first committee. I mean, this goes back to 2014. It's
Yeah.
hard to believe that time has flown by. I do want to just take a second because I created a list of people that have been involved in this with me this whole time. So I want to thank Linda Cole, Steve McClure, Abby Shaudell, Pat Lopez, Pierre Badu, Ron Ahrens, and Ellen Blaufarb. And I should note that Ellen was the first committee chairman when this all started. Also, I want to thank Mitchell Stark, who was the bond director before you took over, Roxanne, and Janice Adams, who was the superintendent before Dr. Young came aboard. And then, of course, David and Todd and Andre, who are here today, thank you guys. I hereby turn it over to you. I know you'll do a great job with whoever else comes aboard. And thank you. You guys are awesome to work with, and I appreciate everybody's contribution. And if last but not least, Tim and Roxanne, I just want to say, especially for the two of you, that your organization and your way of relating and understanding all these numbers and being able to explain them in a clear and easy way so people like myself can understand them is incredible. You guys are amazing at what you do, and it's been a pleasure to be here just sort of to fulfill my role. But you guys are what make this all happen. And so thank you very much. And also thank you to Charles, to Dr. Young, who couldn't be here today, but I hope everything is okay with the family pet. So there you go. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Scott. And just really, and before you close out, for the other committee members, so Roxanne and I will work with Charles. We might reach out to you guys, and prior to our next bond oversight committee meeting, we will hopefully have at least one or more bond oversight committee members to fill some vacant spots we have, because we'll need at least one to have a quorum. And so we have a little bit of work to do over the next couple months. And yeah, we'll be scheduling our next meeting sometime in October. And
Do we want to look for some tentative dates for that?
We usually do, if that's okay.
Yeah, I think that's
I
good.
just have a hard stop at 10 today.
Okay. Let's see, we have, we usually do it towards the end of October on a Tuesday, which would be Tuesday, October 27th at 9 o'clock.
Good by me.
It looks good for me.
Okay, why don't we go ahead and pencil that in, and then we'll check in as October 27th gets closer and see if that still works for everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks again.
Thank you, Scott.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you, Scott.
My pleasure. Hope to see you around town.
Absolutely.
All right.